So I'm thankful today. I'm thankful for the 32 years that my brother Mark spent on this earth. He touched so many lives, and yet only a few of us were lucky enough to be let into Mark's world. And for those that truly knew Mark, you know what I'm talking about. I'm truly blessed to have called Mark my brother. I'm thankful for the last time I talked with Mark. It was on Sunday evening, July 26th. I spoke to Mark on the phone for exactly 20 minutes and 31 seconds. I was driving home from a work assignment. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 o'clock Eastern time where Mark lived. And we primarily talked about three things during our phone conversation. The first was Sarah's upcoming wedding in Monterey. My brother Mark had this grand plan of coming out on a red eye the morning of her wedding. And then he was going to come to the wedding, and then he was going to take a red eye home so he could be back to work first thing Monday morning. And I said, okay, that's great, Mark. Where are you flying into? And he said, well, I'm flying into SFO. Okay. Are you going to rent a car, or what how are you going to get down to Monterey? And he told me he just expected one of us was just going to go pick him up real fast. Real fast. And so I told him, all right, bud, well, it's one way. It's about 2 hours with traffic. And he just couldn't believe it. He's like, what are you talking about? He thought Monterey was up in the Bay Area of California. And I said, no, man, you gotta get out of San Francisco first, doing this whole thing back and forth. Well, so he shut me down pretty quick. He's like, I got it. I'll figure it out. So if you guys know Mark, that would have made me nervous, like it did nervous. We talked about, he was actually on the road. He was driving up to DC, and he was gonna be going to a Christian concert. Which is funny because my brother was a devout Christian, but he didn't really care for the music. So he was actually going up there to meet some friends. So we kind of talked about that for a little bit. And then the third thing that we talked about was the fact that I was going home to an empty house. My wife and kids had already left for Tahoe, and I had to stay behind. I was finishing up a leadership course up in Sacramento. And so, I want to acknowledge some guys I graduated with on the very day that Mark got in an accident. Thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate that. Anyway, so I was going to be home alone that night, and Mark just thought that was hilarious because that was his life. He's like, well, how many movies are you going to watch? And, I go, I'll probably sneak in one, maybe two, we'll see. So Mark was he was pretty thrilled about the fact that I didn't have anyone that was going to come in and be bothering me. I'm thankful for Mark coming into this world on January 31st, 1983. He was the most adorable little brother. I was 6 at the time. He wasn't your average kid, though. At age 4, he had 2 favorite movies, Ben-Hur and The Ten Commandments. Right, Mom? These aren't your average Disney movies that any 4-year-old would watch, but my brother had a deep understanding of who God was and his divine power from a very young age. It was through my brother's faith that he so boldly made decisions in his young life and his adult life that would quite frankly frighten most of us if we were in his shoes. My brother traveled to foreign countries and went places where any common visitor wouldn't dare. I'm not just talking about his travels with the United States Marine Corps. Mark visited some of these places on his own. He was bold, almost reckless with his adventures, and I got to live through his stories, and I loved listening to the way in which he would tell them. I'm thankful today for my brother's personality. He was strong and enduring and was passionate, trustworthy, genuine, discerning, and calm. These are qualities that only faintly describe my brother, not to mention he was funny. No one could do impressions like Mark. He could mimic anyone. He did the voice, the gestures, he could do it all, and it wasn't in a mean, spiteful way. He was just freaking hilarious. I'm thankful for Mark in social situations. He was well liked and he was quite the charmer. He had a way with the ladies, my brother did. I want to share one particular story. I was at my party, and at the party, Mark came up to me. Hey buddy, hey Joe, hey man, hey. You guys know Mark, you know how something was coming, right? It made you nervous. Hey, what's going on, man? You having a good time? Yeah. Hey, are all of Mimi's friends married? And I said, yeah, I think they are. I'm pretty sure. He's like, okay. They're all married. And I go, yeah, they're all spoken for, man. Sorry. And he goes, dude, but they're so hot. And I go, yeah, she's got some good-looking friends, that's for sure. And he goes, and all of them, they're all. He just wouldn't let it go. It was funny. He had a good time that night. I'm thankful for a trip that my two brothers, Nathan and Mark, and I took to our mountain property east of Bakersfield in the Greenhorn Mountains. It was there where Mark showed my two boys, Ethan and Caden, along with Nathan's son, Caleb, about gun safety. And Mark was so patient, he was so kind, while teaching these three young boys about the dangers of guns, but he was showing them how to have fun with them as well. Within an hour, he had these little guys marching around like little soldiers. You hear them call out, all right, range is hot, range is hot. It's just funny to see a little 6-year-old do that. I'm thankful for God's imprint on my brother's life. Mark had zero problems telling people, complete strangers even, about his love for the Lord. I'm thankful for Chris and Sheena Blevins. You guys allowed Mark to live with you. That was so nice. It was so generous. And he loved you guys. Chris and Sheena, he loved you. And he loved that stinking dog of yours, too. I'm thankful for Hannah Lee. Hannah, you became an adopted sister of the entire family up in Oregon. That story you wrote about Mark, my mom in the kitchen, that really was the epitome of their relationship. And thank you for doing that, because it made me remember how close my mom and Mark were. I'm thankful for the Sloshers being family friends of ours for 30 years and opening your home up today. As strange as this sounds, I'm thankful for my brother's motorcycle accident last September. For those of you that don't know, my brother crashed his motorcycle one night in Virginia, and he was found the following morning by some guys on a run. He was unconscious when they found him. He was taken to a medical center, and he was admitted as a John Doe. He didn't have any ID on him. Later, when his motorcycle was discovered and the plate was ran, it was discovered he was Mark Smith, an officer with the U.S. Marine Corps. Mark was flown to a Walter Reed Hospital in D.C., and then he was flown out to Stanford Medical Center about a week later. Mark had no memory of the accident, and it remains a mystery as to what happened. But because of it, the 7 of us came together as a family for the first time in a long time. And it was also the last time that we would all be together. There were some family issues that arose during that time, but let me tell y'all something. God intervened, and he allowed all of us to heal. Not just my brother's brain, healing from his physical injuries, but also all of us healing from some emotional injuries as well. I'm thankful for Mark's relationship with our younger sister, Sarah. These two were the closest of all the siblings. They grew up together, they played together, they went on trips together, they even lived as roommates in downtown Portland. And Sarah was the sibling that flew all the way from Hawaii to Washington, D.C. to be with Mark after learning of his motorcycle accident. Anyone that knew the two of them could easily tell you that Sarah, even being 3 years younger, was unquestionably the more mature of the two. Sarah prevented Mark from himself on almost a daily basis. They had their own special language, their own inside jokes, their own life experiences to share with one another. Sarah recently told me a story. It had snowed over a foot in downtown Portland, and the entire city had shut down. I mean, nothing moved. And Sarah said they came out of their apartment and they just walked down major streets, picking up snow, just kind of having a good time together. Mark was the only human on the planet that could look my sister in the eye and say, "You're so dumb," and mean it in the most affectionate way possible. Mark called Sarah every nickname in the book, including his favorites: Booch, Nicey Poo, and Seaster. Mark loved Sarah and was fiercely protective of her. God help the person that might bring any harm her way. Casey, I'll speak for my brother on this one. I doubt he would have harmed you, and I'm sorry the two of you never met, but I know Mark would have accepted you as his new brother. And Sarah, you know that Mark has all kinds of brotherly torment waiting for you until the day you see him again. I'm thankful for Mark's relationship with Nathan. Nathan became the big brother once they moved to Oregon in grade school, while Becky and I stayed back in Bakersfield. Nate became the standard at which Mark would aspire to. They hunted, fished, golfed, and just generally hung out as brothers. Nathan recently took a trip to see Mark over this past Memorial Weekend, and they hung out around the DC area. They caught a Nationals game, they did some tourist stuff. Nathan took some video of Mark while he stood in front of his Graves friend at the Arlington National Cemetery. And it was during that video, it was just so poignant. Someone in the distance started playing bagpipes. It was really surreal to hear that and just kind of just see Mark stand there and honor his friend. I'm so thankful you got that. I'm thankful you got that video, Nate. I'm thankful for Mark's relationship with Becky. Nobody spoiled Mark like Becky did. My brother lacked for nothing when it came to our older sister, and she always made sure he knew how much she loved him. Mark was humbled by Becky's love and generosity, and it's because of that love for Mark that Becky has really been the rock behind this tragedy that struck our family. Becky's found a way to get things done these past few weeks that nobody wanted to, but knew they needed to get done. I'm thankful for you, Becky, and I love you. Almost done. I'm thankful for Mark's relationship with my parents. Mark had an interesting relationship with my dad. There were some tough times between them, but they paled in comparison to the good. My father loved Mark, and Mark loved my father. Mark would share countless stories about his ongoing life, both in and out of the Marine Corps, with my dad. My dad shares these stories today, and I can see the pride in his eyes. I can hear it in his words. Mark's left a lasting impression on my father. Mark and my mom were quite the duo. Mark literally worshipped the ground that my mother walked on. Mark put my mom on a pretty high pedestal. And it really is unfortunate for every woman out there because Mark always compared them to my mom. If they couldn't cook, clean, sew, pray, have a sense of humor, entertain many family and friends at the same time, travel, read, write, enjoy life, and love the Lord, then that woman was never going to make it with Mark. And I'm thankful for that. My mom had set the bar so high in Mark's mind, and he just couldn't find her equal. These two were so close. There's just too many stories between them to mention here today. But I can say that my mother is so comforted today and has been for the last 2 weeks, knowing that Mark is no longer experiencing the pain and suffering of life on earth. He now resides next to the throne of our Lord and Savior. I'm thankful for every football game I ever attended with my brother, every game we ever talked about on the phone or over text. I'm thankful for every trip we ever took, every joke we ever told, every story we ever shared, every movie we ever watched. every prayer we ever prayed, every golf ball we ever hit, and every dream and goal we ever discussed. I'm thankful for all of the family and friends that could be here today. It means a lot to me and my family that you came to pay your respects. I'm thankful to Bill Hale for making the trip and speaking this morning. I tip my hat to Major Jason Kendall with the United States Marine Corps. You and your men have been a blessing to my family, so thank you. And finally, this is actually not a sad part. I'm thankful for my final communication with Mark. It was later that same day. It was about 4 hours later, in the evening of July 26th. It was about 7:45 Pacific time, 10:45 Mark's time, and I sent Mark the following text message. How was the concert? And more importantly, were there any hotties? Mark replied back via text 2 minutes later, ha. Yeah, I ran into the girls I knew from church, but you know what, bro? I'm over it. Now I'm watching my ultimate goodnight movie for the last 2 years, ... The Departed. Ha ha. Which you gonna watch, bro? And I responded back at 8:01 Pacific. Slay it, man. And then I told him in my next text, I'm almost done with X-Men Days of Future Past. And Mark immediately responded, haha, hell yeah, my brother. And then I wrote, up next, Book of Eli. And Mark responded 2 minutes later, my man. And then in parentheses, he put Denzel voice. And for those of you that haven't seen American Gangster with Denzel Washington, you just won't understand what that means. But Mark used to say that to me like almost every texting. And I responded with my final text message to him. At 8:29, I said, I love it, bro. And I really wish I would have responded, I love you, bro. Because I do love Mark. And I always will. I look forward to seeing him again.